Man, do you hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party. I'm talking good on barbecue. Hey guys, welcome to this week's Old Boy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will tell you what I'm excited about today's guest. We've got my boy Bryan Battle. I'll tell you what, Bryan. I've had a chance to watch some of his fights. You know, Ultimate Fighter champion, season 29, and dude, 11-2 right now, and just a guy that's got it all together. Bryan, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, thank you for having me, brother. It should be 12-2, but it's whatever. You know what I'm saying? Everyone knows what's up. You know what I'm saying? So we're just gonna keep on trucking. Looking to keep on climbing up the ranks.
Well, hey, I learned from a couple of podcasts and radio guys. We're not going to lead with the story, but we are going to talk about that in a second, my man. But you know, in doing my research for this, and I knew of you. I'm no UFC analyst. Me and you ain't going to talk about kick angles or nothing like that. But I am a fan. And kind of in doing my research, you know, I saw you win the Ultimate Fighter season 29. I thought that was sick. You know, you being one of the last picks to go on and win it said a lot about you, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail. But probably the thing I'm most impressed with is, bro, you know, most guys in UFC have a, you know, mostly wrestling background or jiu-jitsu background, you know, because, you know, you enjoyed doing it as a kid. Or, I mean, from my research, you had a little bit of 6-year-old karate, and that was about it, kid. Like, but you were a fan. So, you know, talk to me about how you kind of decide to get on this journey and say, man, I'm meant to be a fighter. You know, with not having that in you and just being a fan, I got mad respect for that.
Thank you, man. And it was really interesting how I eventually got into the sport because I became a fan. My dad always watched UFC. I remember I always would sit down and watch old UFC Unleashed with him, or old seasons of the Ultimate Fighter. Um, but yeah, I really became a big fan myself, like late eighth grade, early ninth grade. And, I was just a fan. You know what I'm saying? I was homeschooled, so I didn't have the option of joining a wrestling team for real, for real. And it's just one of those things where it was always a bucket list thing. Like I always was like, all right, I'm this big fan. I love all this fighting stuff. So when I get the chance, when I have the time, when I have the money, I'm gonna have to go just see what I'm made of. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely uh, you know, and it was funny because I told myself, because I was getting started late. So, it's like, even though I had kind of big aspirations, I tried to be realistic with it. So I was like, all right,
Yep.
I'll go until I lose my first fight. And then, after that, I'll chill out, I'll see how far I can take it. But I lost my very first fight. So,
You're like, shit, I ain't tried this long enough. I gotta go
no,
back, old boy.
yeah, no, I was sitting there. I was like, all right, I can't go out, and I lost bad. I lost by first round knockout. Like it was a heavyweight fight. It was crazy. So I was like, I can't go out like that. So, we went back. I won the next 8. Somewhere in between those 8 fights that I won, I was like, this is definitely what I want.
So you're 29 right now. What age did you jump in?
I was 21 going on 22.
Dude. And so I also know you did a little bit of security alarm installation. So were you
Yeah.
doing that? Were you doing that to raise funds to go to the gym and start training?
Well, it's funny because that was actually at the time I had that job. That was definitely the best job I'd had, the most money I ever made. And so I was training before that, but it was funny. Like that was a job. I kept that job until literally I got my heart broken. You know what I'm saying? This girl. I was got really into this girl, and at that time I was already over this job. Just because the hours were crazy.
Yeah.
You're working anywhere between 50 to 80 hours a week. It's getting in the way of my training. I'm doing a lot of traveling. And so even though it was financially a great job, it definitely, but I was like, I need to be able to, have this job so I can have money to, go on. dates and be able to do regular stuff as well as pay my bills and everything. And then after things didn't work out with that girl, I was like, I don't need this job anymore. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you know
I ain't
what?
got to take her to dinner no more. I just got to
Yeah,
take care of me.
I was like, screw it. So I literally we me and her broke things off, and I put in my 2 weeks notice, like literally right after that. And so then I went back to Chick-fil-A and bouncing on the weekends, and that's how I survived until I got uh, right up until I got into the UFC. I did a little carpentry right before the UFC, but the bulk of it was Chick-fil-A and working
Yep.
out
Hey,
weekends. You know what I mean?
hey, the good thing about Chick-fil-A is you always got a job because I ain't never walked by a Chick-fil-A that ain't got enough business. You know what I mean?
Hey, hey, you're not lying about that. And then you make the connections. You know what I'm saying? And they're
Yeah,
always they're always ready for people to come out. People leave and they end up coming back all the time. So
absolutely. And then bouncing, man. What kind of bars did you bounce?
man, I bounced at like the most peaceful, relaxed back bar. Like they really didn't need, like it was
Yeah,
like all middle aged people in a hipster area. So it was like there was probably I worked there for a couple of years, and there was probably a handful of times where I had to even like get up and start really having to like settle someone down. Like it was pretty rare. Like, you know what I mean? But
yeah, oh yeah. That dude, those are the best kind of bouncing jobs. I always said, did just a touch of it when I was younger, and I always said, man, a good night's when you ain't got to lay hands on nobody. You're fist bumping dudes as they go out the door, and you go and drive home safely. You know what I mean? That's a good night of bouncing because hey, you get paid either way.
yeah, 100%. 100%. You might as well make it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to sit there, chill in my chair, check IDs, and watch ESPN. You know what I mean? Like that's how I'm trying to. That's how I'm trying to have my night. I'm not trying to have anything exciting happen. Trying to, come in, do my job, and get home safely. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's what it's all about. One thing I love about you too, man. You're Charlotte boy, born and raised. I'm sure it would have been easy to do like a bunch of other guys and fly the coop. You know what I mean, and go to Albuquerque or go to Vegas or go somewhere like that as you started to come up a bit. But man, you stayed there. Is that just the love for your family, the love for the town? Like what is it? Because I got a lot of respect for it.
Man, I appreciate that because it definitely is something that crossed my mind. But I have such a good relationship with my head coach. That's something I don't feel like. I mean, I could probably cultivate that eventually, but
Yeah,
I have such a good. He knows me so well. I trust him so much. And he's someone where in a couple of years, once I really start getting my shine, I think he'll start getting his shine. He'll start being known as one of the great minds of MMA. You know what I'm saying? No one knows
yeah.
who he is right now, but I'm sure that'll change in a little bit. We got a couple guys on the come up, so not just my success, but a couple other homegrown guys getting
Yeah.
to the UFC. And just like now the team, the culture that we're building down here is just, I like and then the other thing is like once you join one of those big gyms, it's like it's kind of cookie cutter. You know what I'm saying? I
Yep.
fought I fought a couple guys from some mega gyms, and it hasn't really been impressive. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they're doing down there, but obviously some people are really good, but some people are pretty mid. You know what I mean? So
I'll tell you. I've got to know a lot of fighters. I've got to cook for a lot of fighters. But recently, leading up to UFC 300, I got invited out to Justin Gaethje's camp,
okay.
and got to go out there on Friday and watch him train. Which he trains out there at Onyx, and I gotta say it's really cool. Like it is such a family. Like Justin, there's a couple other fighters that train out of there, but it's like it kind of reminds me of like when I was doing my research on you, kind of like your gym. Like there's 4 or 5 dudes, and don't get me wrong, Trevor's legendary as a boxing coach and as a MMA coach, but like that family atmosphere. Like when you walked in there, like you didn't feel like you were walking into like a gym. You know what I mean? Like you were walking into like a big family house that just happened to have 2/3 of an octagon in it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It was cool, but then to watch, those guys push Justin. And then, the next day we're over at his house, man, and I'm cooking and we're all breaking bread. And just to see that like family dynamic, that has to be one of the things that makes you fall in love with it too, right, Brian?
Uh, 10,000%. Like that because like on that point, like the culture and like the people we got, um, it really is like an extended family. It really like exactly like you said. I mean, we're all super tight. Sometimes we go and we'll do things outside the gym. We'll watch fights. We'll go do just whatever kind of activity. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you mentioned that. I got to say this. So I'm out there cooking on Saturday, and you got all the coaches. Luis Castillo. He helps Justin a lot, and all these guys. And I'm over there cooking. I'm like, what are these guys huddled around this fucking phone for? You know what I mean,
Yeah,
dude? It was prelims to some fight. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it was interesting. It was like, damn, man. Like if there's a fight on, they don't give a shit if it's at 4 o'clock out Denver time. It's a fight. There's something to
yeah.
learn from it. They want to watch it. Like, to me, that's like you're living the lifestyle. That ain't you're doing this for a job. Like, you eat, sleep, and breathe it, and you want to ingest it and be a part of it every time there's an opportunity.
Now, I mean, well, especially if you're trying to maximize your like own ability in the sport.
Yep.
As I was listening to actually LeBron James on a podcast the other day, and he was talking about he hates how people use the word discipline. He feels like people use the word discipline way too loosely. He's like, real discipline is like sacrificing your family, which is like a crazy thing to say off the
It
rip.
is.
But when you really think about it, I mean, he was like, not even to be great, but just to maximize your own ability. It takes that discipline where it's like, you're making sacrifices, you're doing things, you don't want to do. Um, and now it was kind of like the fight life. It's not just something where, the hours are weird. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
And, a fight comes on, you're watching the fight. It really is not just a job. You know what I'm saying? It's how we make money. But I mean, that's just at the highest level. You know what I'm saying? Before
Sure.
you get to the UFC, if you're fighting, if you're fighting for money, good luck. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, there's a hell of a lot of ways to make more money quicker, ain't there, Brian?
Man, I so right before I got into tough, that was when COVID hit, and so
Yep.
I was fighting during the COVID era, and literally my last fight before the Ultimate Fighter, I got paid $300 to show, and $300 to win. That I drove 7 hours to Kentucky for that fight. And just grateful for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, but
Y- y- Well, and that's a good point. So when Ultimate Fighter came up, season 29, how did they approach you? How did you find out about it?
it was actually that same promotion. I fought for this promotion B2. I don't know if they're still around, but I fought for this promotion twice. The first time I fought for them, I had a really impressive performance, and
Hmm.
matchmaker, he was like, "Hey, they're doing a tough season in your weight class. You should apply for that." And so I was like, "All right, cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna apply for it." But at the time, I was 4-1. I was like, I wasn't really a highly touted pro prospect. I did a lot of things in the amateur. I beat a lot of good guys as an amateur, but I was like, I'm gonna apply for it, and it's funny. The whole process got pushed back because of COVID, and so I applied for it, and
Yep.
they're gonna invite me out for tryouts, but the whole process got pushed back. So I actually took another fight, ran it up to 5-1. I think that helped me out a lot. But it was funny because they were very, very up close to the vest with things. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you have a talk and you'd be like, "So am I on the show?" And they're like, we can't say that yet." And then they'd be like, "So you're coming out to Vegas?" They're like, "Oh, nice, I'm coming out to Vegas, so I'm on the show." And they're like, "That's not what we said." You know what I'm saying? It's like we're taking you out to Vegas. We didn't say you're on the. There was people who went out there. I saw them. We did the medicals together. Guys, they flew out to Vegas because we had to do a quarantine week because it was still during COVID. So they flew them out
Yep.
to Vegas, did the quarantine week in the hotel, and then sent them right back. And I wasn't supposed to be on the show. Like they brought me out there just in case, but now some of the producers.
Oh, so you were like an alternate already in their eyes.
Yeah, no, they really because you can hear guys talking about it. Like there was guys they invited in my weight class that just turned it down because they didn't want to cut weight multiple times or whatever. They
Yep.
would do contender series. So I was like, every time I saw the producer, I was begging. I was begging him. I was like, please, man, just, if you let me on the show, I'll take care of everything else. Just let me in the door. I'll take care of everything else. And I was begging so hard to get on the show. The producer was like, he went to bat for me. He was like, I think
Boy's hungry. Boy's hungry.
we should put this guy on the show. Yeah, it was, I think he's got a good story. Got the wife and the kid. And so uh,
Yeah.
they put me on the show, and the rest is history. You know what I mean?
Proud sponsor of the show, Trollco Clothing. Love what the brand's about. It's all about supporting that blue collar worker. You know them for their trademark shirt and hat, dirty hands, clean money. It's not just a slogan, it is a lifestyle. Go visit trollcoclothing.com and use my discount code OldBoyPodcast for 15% off. Man, something I'm curious of at this point, and we're a little into the story now, but who's some of that inspiration? I hear your story. I think about things like a Forrest Griffin comes to mind. Forrest was like just kind of that dude too. Like, I'm just not gonna let anything stop me. Like, this is what I want to do. Who are some of the guys that when you got into this, you looked at, aspirationally and said, man, I'm gonna kind of follow this lead.
Man, a lot of the overachievers. I mean, I was a big Forrest Griffin fan growing up.
Yeah.
It's funny because everyone they swear I sound just like him. You know what I'm saying? But
You can pick up a little bit of it.
yeah, they said like when I was on the show, Vulcan his coaches, they asked me if I was from Georgia, which through they, they're from Austin. You from Georgia? And I was like, what? I was like, no, I'm from North Carolina. They're like, is that close to Georgia? I was like, I mean, kind of, yeah.
Enough.
Like, you sound just like Forrest Griffin. And ever since they said that, everyone else was but Forrest Griffin was definitely someone I looked up to, especially in the early days when I was first getting into the sport. Robbie Lawler was
Robbie.
he was the reason I started
Dude.
fighting. He was the one when he went on his title run. I was like, I needed that really set the sense of urgency where I was like, I need to do this now. I've messed around long enough. Like I got to get in the gym and do this because watching him go on that title run was just crazy.
And dude, to look where he came from, right? Like fighting independence, fighting WEC, like Robbie came. I mean, you couldn't more come through the ranks than he did. You know what I mean? And then to reach greatness, like that's fucking cool. If that's not inspirational, I don't know what is. Especially around your weight. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, now granted, I was a heavyweight when I was watching that, so I didn't think we would ever be in the same. The fact that
Right.
right now, if you would have told me that back then, I've been like, you're crazy. But
Yeah.
that's that, and then I think too, definitely growing up in the church, and just like having the idea of faith,
Faith.
you know what I'm saying? Like the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. So, it's just like not only having faith in a greater power, but having faith in yourself, you know what I'm saying? Believing in yourself, Um, faith can be viewed as irrational to some people, and I think that helped me be a little bit irrational in my expectations on what I could accomplish in the sport. You know what I'm saying? Coming
Sure.
I did, you know. So there's a whole lot of factors, but I would definitely say out of all those things, if I don't know if I would have really, like I said, it was always a bucket list thing. But watching Robbie go on that title run, I was like, I need to do this. Like I was so inspired watching his fights.
I love it.
I need to get in
I
there.
love it. It's amazing. Going back to the Ultimate Fighter, season 29, you get on the show, you do all your pleading, hey, I'll make you right.
Yeah.
So there has to be this shit, I'm here. So probably you really don't give a fuck about getting drafted as one of the last two. Like, dude, I'm here. I'm here to prove myself. I don't give a shit where I go. Was that kind of your thought process?
That would have made more sense off of what I just said, but I still went in there. I was like, they're gonna watch my tape, and like I said, if you go back to my amateur days, like I beat some people, like I beat Impa Kasanganizing. He went on PFL 205.
Yep.
I beat Cody Brundage as an amateur. He
Yeah.
at Bo UFC 300 against Bo Nichols. So uh,
Yep.
just off of that, and then my last four fights as a pro, I got all finishes, and I was like, okay, they're gonna watch some tape, they're gonna see me, we're gonna do some rounds and stuff. They're gonna see my ability. I'll be, I was still feeling. I was like, I probably won't be first pick. I don't got the resume, or the D1 college wrestler, or kickboxer or anything like that.
Yep.
But I was like, I'll definitely be like second pick, at least second pick. And so they did, like I said, they go through, they do the first picks, and I was like, all right, yeah, that's right. That's okay. I don't need to be first pick. That's okay. They
Yep.
did the second picks, and I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't a second pick. All right, okay, yeah, that's okay. I can live with that. I was like, as long as I'm not the last pick. And then they did the third picks. I said, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh fuck.
like on the show, they did a good, because when I walked over there, I did a little hang loose thing, and I was kind of like half smiling, but I was heated. I got over there, and they said we did the first matchups right there. They did the team picks, and they were like, all right, who's fighting first? And I was like, I want to fight their first pick right now. That's what I told them. They didn't let me do it because I was the heaviest guy on the team at the time. So, they're thinking about
They
me.
wanted to give you some cut time.
Yeah, they wanted to give me some cut time, but I was definitely heated. And then the whole season, everyone's like, Brian, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Who cares where you're picked? I was like, no, it matters.
Yeah.
It's the
And then who do you beat to win the son of a bitch? Their
uh,
number one pick.
one pick. I had my eyes on Petrosky the whole time.
Man, and I'll tell you this, I watched that fight leading up to this conversation, and and as a fan, I always kind of judge a fighter based off their composure, like what happens, when the shit hits the fan. And dude, you could have mailed it in that first round, but bro, you did not. Like the perseverance and keeping your composure, in all the fights that I've watched, one thing that I took away, and one of the reasons I think you're going to have a bright future in this is, even if you get stunned, you keep your shit together. And to me, I can only imagine how difficult that is in the middle of combat.
Now, and I'll tell you, that's definitely something shake. From the early part of my career, had a reputation as someone who was tough and durable. I was like, I gotta shake that. It's like anytime they talk about a fighter being tough and durable, that means they get beat up some.
Yeah.
I was and I knew why, because I got, especially coming up, there was a lot of first rounds where it was just like, okay, survive the first round. That was like my mentality for a lot of these first rounds. It was just like, survive the first round, survive the first couple minutes. After the first couple minutes, everything will be good. You'll be settled in. You know what I mean? And I would say, and that was definitely a thing too, where it was like, I had the tenacity and the will to win, but I definitely was lacking some skills and some athleticism to really have the confidence to just go out there from the go and just have my
Yep.
foot on the gas pedal and really just win every second of the fight, which is something I'm really happy about now. It's like, now I feel very confident that I can go out and from bell to bell, I can go out and do my thing and really dominate a fight.
Well, and the other thing too, in looking at your Instagram, I saw you had posted this picture a little bit ago of your body transformation from 2021 to 2024. In having watched, the majority of your recent fights, you do not seem to get winded. Is it just the conditioning? Have you always had naturally, since you've kind of cut this weight and redefined your physique? Like, has that made conditioning easier, and you just kind of go in knowing that, hey, I can go this, this time?
Well, I would say conditioning was always where I kind of that was always my strong suit. Like, because I was a bigger guy, and like I said, I was homeschooled, so I wasn't doing a whole lot of weight regimen programs.
Mm-hmm.
I played sports all throughout high school, but I was homeschooled, so running was always just a big part of it, and then just like showing up and just being good at the game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
from whistle to whistle, just like being in there and just giving it your all. And I think part of it is just like knowing how to pace yourself too. like really knowing yourself and understanding yourself and figuring out like how hard you can push it. Because no matter how good of a shape you're in, if you don't know how to pace yourself, you're gonna get tired. You know.
Yeah, and I think that is so key, in talking to fighters and getting to know more fighters. That whole like, man, Chad, you can go out there and gas the shit out of yourself. I don't care if you got the best conditioning in the world. You can go out there and get gassed if you don't figure out how to, to stagger it to where, you give yourself a little time to get some back, but not eat hands either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a Prius will run out of gas eventually. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great way to put it.
Like that Prius will run out faster or slower. You know, definitely pacing, but I would say if the biggest thing about my body transformation is just being more athletic. Like I got the conditioning. I'm not worried about the conditioning. I always work it because you can always get better with your conditioning. But being stronger and like I said, like definitely I like the way I did it because it was like it forced me to like develop that composure of learning how to deal with people beating up first minute or people coming out hot. Because now I've got more skills and more athleticism to put with all that stuff I'd already developed. So now I feel more complete than ever. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's like, if you want to grapple, you got a big, strong welterweight on you. You know what I'm saying? I'm way
Yep.
stronger than I was before, you know?
Well, and I think the other thing at that welterweight weight class that you've got, I mean, you got that 77-inch reach, and dude, the way you deliver front kicks, like man, I don't want to eat one of those, more or less 3 or 4, but like you throw it so hard, and it's got I can't remember the short guy in the blue trunks that you fought a little bit back. What was that?
AJ Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, dude, I'm sitting there and I'm going, dude, that's like me fighting you, like short armed, like, and he got inside on you one time and got a good lick. But that was about it. Like trying to get in on that length that you have is something that's daunting. You know what I mean?
Ooh, and I said it's always funny. That's what and this will sound like it's a little off, but that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important to cross train. Uh, because like if you watch me spar at the gym, at my gym, you won't see me throw a ton of front kicks because people are used, you know what I'm saying? People are used to
Yeah.
how to defend it, and so it's always a funny thing, because going into that fight, we had a whole system set up off the front kicks. It was like I was going to do the front kicks, and then when he started defending the front kicks, I was going to do this, I was going to do that. Uh, but he never defended the front kick. And that's happened in a couple fights where I've been started the front kicks. I'm waiting for them to defend it so that I can start going into something else. But then they never
Yep.
start defending the front kicks. It's just the front kicks. It's just like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So
And then the thing is, like, you don't deliver them like a jab. I mean, there's some meaning behind those. When those connect, you definitely startle your opponent. You got a hell of a front kick.
no, and those are it's kind of like leg kicks, right? It's like you can eat one or
Yep.
two, but you got to start doing something about those. And if you don't start doing
Yeah.
that AJ fight specifically, I knew he was ruined after the first round because I was just like in my head, like mathematically speaking, I was like, there's no way someone can eat all those front kicks
Yep.
and not be depleted, like absolutely ruined afterwards. So it was no the front kicks. And as I go on, people are going to start watching the tape. They're going to start having
Sure.
game plans for it. But I'm almost excited for when people start defending the front kicks because then it'll open up a whole nother can of worms. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Well, and talk to me a little bit about that, Brian. So you go in, and you were talking about with AJ, like
yeah,
you guys had a game plan put together,
yeah.
but then you realized, oh, he's not defending this front kick. Like, do you just as a fighter go, man? I know what we talked about, coach, but like if he gives me this, I'm just going to take it. You know what I mean? And then if he, like you had said, if he starts defending it, then we'll go to the game plan. But it seems like when you have a big opening like that, you just until it stops, you got to run it.
No. I mean, 10,000%. I mean, my coach, he was calling for things the whole time. And I was like, man, it's really hard for me to, like do something else when this is just working so well. But
Yeah.
I will say, like, I didn't like that fight very much. I felt like it was boring, and I felt like I really felt like I should have put him away in the first. Really, like I waited too long to really start going. You know what I mean?
No.
And
So,
I'd
so you were
say
upset about so you were upset about that one. So you knocked Green out in 14.
Green was before that one actually.
Oh,
Green
that's
was
right.
out,
Green was before that. Yes.
Green was before that one actually, but that's why I came out against. That's why I came out on the front foot versus Losa because I was like, I'm not fighting like that again. I was like, that was boring. But it was one of the biggest things I learned from that is just to like not have tunnel vision in your fights, like not to like. I think a game plan is really important, but it's like you need to drill the game plan concepts so much that you don't have to think about them, so that you're just not thinking during the fight. Like you shouldn't be thinking a whole
Yep.
lot and looking for specific things. You should just be fighting and letting things happen organically. If you got a good game plan and you drill it, then the game plan should come off organically. You shouldn't have to look for things. You know what I mean?
No, I totally agree. As we were talking about this, I was thinking back to high school baseball where, coaches calling the pitches, but you're like, Coach, he didn't catch up to that last fastball.
Yeah.
Why am I going to slow it down for him? Why am I going to throw a curve? Why am I going to throw a slider? Like, I hate to do this, but I know I'm beating him man on man. I'm waving you off. Like, give me the old number one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, facts.
And I think too, like that's when you're in the moment. And man, I've got them beat with this. Like I can't deviate.
Yeah.
Now he fouls one off. You're like, okay, well maybe we do, but if not, I'm gonna keep coming at you, man. Show me you can beat me.
100%. Especially with the bread and butter. Like you said, like for me, like the front kick, that's bread and butter. The fastball, that's bread and butter. You can't handle the bread and butter. Why am I gonna throw some jelly in there? You know what I'm saying? Like
dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Brian, I may need permission to use that. I love that's the butter. Why am I going to throw jelly in there?
Come on, man.
I love it. But one of the things I kind of want to go back to that Green fight a little bit. You've on UFC wise, you had only competed in the Apex.
Yeah.
And then to get to go to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Hometown.
Yeah.
Fight Green. And to do it like that, bro, like 14 seconds, knockout of the year, voted by numerous, publications, podcasts, like that feeling had to be just unreal. Like, and you could see the emotion in the post fight. Like, it was amazing. Like, just walk us through like the preparation for that fight. Did you feel like you had a city on your shoulders? Like where was it? Where was your head at?
Man, that whole thing, it was such a surreal experience. And it was one of those. I know it's different for different people. Like a lot of people would feel like I'm in my hometown, I have all this pressure and what. I really looked at it as more of like a blessing and like kind of like, wow, I can't believe this opportunity really just fell in my lap because, like you said, all my fights before that had been the Apex. You know what I'm saying? You go back to the Ultimate Fighter, those were in the Apex. And then before the Ultimate Fighter, I was fighting during COVID, so it's like there was never any big crowds. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's like to go from, not fighting for more than 200 people to fighting in a, jam-packed Spectrum Center, and, the emotion after the fight, I probably would have cried more if I hadn't cried so much thinking about it beforehand. As soon as because I got that was actually technically a late notice fight. Green was supposed to fight AJ Matthews, and AJ Matthews he had to pull out. So I saw that. I messaged my agent. I was like, "Hey, does Green need a fight?" He got back to me later, and it was like, "Boom, we're booked." But, when the fight was initially booked, I was looking at the card and the location was to be announced. And I was thinking, okay, this will probably be at the Apex, looking at who's on the card, I didn't think, and, then they're talking about, okay, maybe Nashville, maybe Charleston. I was like, oh, that Charleston would be great.
We're talking about the South.
Great.
All right.
Like now we're getting closer to home. All right, cool. People can come. And then I was driving from the strength and conditioning gym to the MMA gym, and I had a teammate in the car with me. He goes, oh, you're fighting in Charlotte? And I was like, no, no, they're talking about it being over here, over here, over here. And he's like, no, no. He turned his phone around and said UFC Charlotte, May 15th or whenever it was. And I saw that and I
Yeah.
just like, I was like taken aback for a second. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to fight May 15th. And so then I'm like, wait, I'm fighting in Charlotte? And,
Oh
then,
shit.
yeah, yeah. And for the rest of that ride, I put on my walkout music and I was just crying for the rest of the ride. I was like, I can't believe this. This is amazing. And just like,
Oh man.
everything leading up to it was just, it was just great. The vibes were great. When I walked in, I was the second fight on the card, so I wasn't thinking that it was going to be, as full as it was. I didn't know what kind of reception I was going to get. I didn't know what the reception would be like walking in an arena,
Sure.
period. And so when I'm walking out and everyone's going crazy, I was like, "Oh man, this is wild." You know what I'm saying? Like this is so
No.
wild. I didn't understand. Like after watching the fight back and hearing the commentators talk about how that was like a champion's reception, they're like, this is crazy. Like how is he going to deal with this?" And
Pretty well.
it was
Did pretty well with it.
well, man. Because it's like I hit him with the power of all of Charlotte. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone in that, I felt like
Yeah.
everyone in that arena was there fighting with me. It was really a magical moment. Like I didn't want it to end. That's why you see me walking around the cage and I keep on. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't stop cheering, please. Like I don't want to leave
Y'all
the
gonna
cage.
have to tell me to get out of here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
soak up every damn second ounce of this, boys.
You know
Sorry,
what I'm
not
saying?
sorry.
I did not go to sleep that night. You know what I'm saying? I was like just
Totally.
you know what I mean? I was jacked up.
Dude, how many events growing up did you go to at the Spectrum Center as a young adult? You know what I mean? And you're like, dude, I'm on display here. Like I'm the event.
Yeah.
Like that has to be such a feeling.
No,
And then to finish it like that, I mean, amazing.
man, it was because I know he says the crowd didn't get to him. I know the crowd got to him. On one hand, hearing everyone go crazy for me, but they were booing him. They were booing him bad, and I could see it in his body language. I was like, oh, I think the crowd's getting into him a little bit. So when he came out crazy like that, I don't think that was. He says it was part of the game, but I don't think going that crazy was part of the game plan because I wasn't even taking. I was like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well,
All right, no.
To me, that makes me think that, like, all right, he knows he's got just not me, but all this crowd against him.
Yeah.
I'm going to give him a minute of fury and just see if I can hopefully catch him. And he got caught. You know what I mean? But once again, that's when you abandon your game plan and just go out there rogue. That's usually how it ends up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you talk about the composure. It was like that was a lack of composure, like a major lack of composure.
Yes.
Like there was nothing,
sure.
nothing wise about anything he was doing in that moment. So it's like that was like a 20 strike combination. Like I was like, I was backing up, waiting for him to finish. I'm like, okay, he's about to be done. I was like, okay, he's still going. He's about to be done. I was like, he's still going. Then I hit the cage. I'm like, oh shit, he's still going. I was like, okay, like I guess this is what we're doing. Like if you want to do this, then let's fucking fire and see who wins. You know what I mean?
And that's another thing too. In watching a lot of your footage, Bryan, you were very comfortable standing up with your back against the cage. Is that training? Is that like a lot of guys you'll kind of see like their demeanor will change a little bit or their body language will change a little bit, but you seem very comfortable that way. Very.
Well, and to be honest with you, I prefer fighting I prefer moving forward. That's how like if I'm sparring and I'm just doing whatever I want, I'm gonna be moving forward. But being a tall guy with longer arms, isn't that I just done a lot of drills, a lot of footwork drills, you know what I'm saying? A lot of sparring where it's like the game plan is to be moving. So, I'm moving and it's just, I spent so much time against the cage, where I think, really it's like the grappling, my cage grappling is so good against the cage that it's I know always worst case scenario. If I hit the cage, it's like I can always fall back on that grappling, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. No, I totally understand. One thing you said a little bit earlier that I kind of want to go back to is, talking about preparing for that fight in Charlotte. Do you visualize a fight beforehand? Yeah. Can you kind of walk me through that process if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, I do. Basically, it's funny. I do most of my visualizing when I'm driving, which might not be like the best thing. Like, like I drive a Jeep
It's
Wrangler.
not DOT approved.
Yeah, yeah, like,
Oh, dude, I've seen your Wrangler. That's a pretty sick Wrangler, old boy.
this is the newer one. I had a more basic older one, but because anytime you're driving a Wrangler, people are always waving to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they're in the Wranglers. And my nephew, like I would go, like my routine would be, okay, strength and conditioning, go pick up my nephew from middle school, go pick up my son from daycare, then go to the gym. That was like the routine for during that Charlotte fight. And so
Hmm.
after I pick up my nephew, he'd have his things, and I would listen to him for a second. But I was like, all right, once I turn up this music, that means you got to be quiet. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's funny, I didn't even realize like I'd be like moving my head and shoulders and stuff like that. But after that fight, my nephew came to me. He was like, "Yo, I saw you do that before the fight. You know what I'm saying? I saw you do that slip punch. You know what I'm saying? While you're driving the car. But it's just like, yeah, definitely that visualization. I try to see every scenario. You know what I'm saying? Like see the scenarios where things don't go well.
Hmm.
Um, but then it's also like I said. I mean, especially when you're really in the zone and you don't have like tunnel vision, you know what I'm saying? You don't have something
Yep.
specifically you're looking for. It's a beautiful thing because then you're visualizing all the different ways you can finish somebody and all the different things you can do. And that's why like when people ask for predictions for fights, you know what I'm saying? If I'm really in the zone, I can't give a straight prediction because it's less about it's kind of like what poison are they going to take? You know what I'm saying? Are we
Yep.
going to go to the ground? Am I going to choke them out? Are we going to stay on the feet? Am I going to knock them out? Are they going to be a tough guy? I'm going to whoop them for 3 rounds. It's like there's a whole variety of options which end
But you've
with me
played them all
winning.
out.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
No,
yes,
I totally get it. And that kind of, what you're talking about now kind of reminds me, I heard you, and I'm going to paraphrase it.
yeah,
A quote from Jordan: preparation destroys fear and provides confidence.
yes, yes,
And that to me is like, because people ask me in my profession all the time, like, man, are you nervous to cook for those people? I'm like, nah, man. Like, I've done this 1,000 times.
yeah,
Whether it be for, a couple of judges in a parking lot at a barbecue contest, or whether it be for, Justin or any of the other guys I've cooked for.
yeah,
It's like, no, I've got my reps. I know that I'm good at this.
yeah,
It's just up to me to execute. And it does take that fear away, and it puts a confidence in you that's not cocky.
yeah.
It's just, you're ready for this. Put me on that stage. I'm ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. And it's like you know exactly what you can cook and what you're not gonna cook. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not doing
Yep.
anything. Like you said, you got the reps. You're not doing anything for the first time. You know exactly what you're doing, how you're gonna do it, what the timing is. And it's like you got it down lock. You know what I'm saying? It's like what's there to be nervous about? Like I,
Yep.
I got this. I've done this a million times. Um, and yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say while we're talking about and dropping celebrity quotes, one thing I learned about you, and you'd have won at least $1,000 off of me when we talked about your favorite athlete.
Yeah,
It's not Michael Jordan.
yeah.
It's that damn number 3, old Dale
motherfucker.
Earnhardt Sr.
Holy cow.
Dude, I saw you with that old school Goodrich jacket on, and that is old boy as shit, man. Like,
Yeah.
and I know Charlotte, big NASCAR town. I'm sure you love it, but I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody loves the Intimidator. Well, some hate him, but
Yeah.
dude, you had to respect the game. There was not a guy that cared about winning more in NASCAR than Dale Senior. Where did that love come from, man?
Well, so like I tell you, like obviously, back in the day, fighting was like, that was like my release. You know what I'm saying? That was like my
Yeah.
escape. You know what I'm saying from my job, and it's like now, all right. Fast forward, now fighting is my job. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a blessing. It's a blessing,
Yep.
but it is also it's like okay, well now I need to kind of find something where I can shut my brain off and just kind of be a fan. You know what I'm saying? And so I started. It was fun. I just started kind of getting into racing a little bit, and what really kicked it off was a video on Dale Earnhardt Sr. It was like a YouTube video called "There Will Never Ever Be Another Driver Like Dale Earnhardt Sr." And so I
Okay.
watched that, and I'm like, oh man, this dude's a gangster. You know what I'm saying? And he's from North Carolina. I was like, man, this guy's. And I was, I like you said, I'm from North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? I grew up even before I was in North Carolina. I knew who Dale Earnhardt Sr. was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just one. Anytime someone dies, you know, doing their sport. You know what I'm saying? That just shows another kind of. And then not only that, he went out helping his son. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
he went out helping
Yep.
his son get the W, and it's just like, man, dude, and just his mentality and the way that he approached it. You know what I mean? The fact that I love the stories about how people said, he would do favors for them off track and tell them not to tell anybody so it didn't
Yep.
mess up his reputation on track. I was like, what a gangster. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking
Yep.
about. You know what I mean?
Like, hey, bro, I'm gonna give you this engine. If
Yeah.
anybody finds out about it, you're dead to me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but that's a true competitor. He did
Yeah.
not want to beat somebody because they didn't have something.
Yeah.
He wanted to go, shit, I gave you my engine and I still whipped your ass.
Yeah,
Yeah. But like in the most like camaraderie friend way possible.
Yeah.
Like people talk about Jordan being like and Kobe and those guys like being ultra competitors. You gotta put Dale Sr. there. And nobody will think about it because it's racing cars, but that guy gave a shit about one. He didn't care about sponsor dollars.
Yeah.
He didn't care about offending anybody. He cared about being a good friend and winning every time he got an opportunity.
And I'll tell you, people just don't appreciate the motherfucking race car drivers. Like it's like they're in
They're
rocket
athletes.
ships. Yeah, they're in athletes. The G forces they're dealing with, the
Yes.
timing, the precision, the focus. Now, that's probably the thing I appreciate most about driving. Is just like it's like okay, are they going around an oval and are they only making left turns on this track? Yes. But it's like they have to do it
So
with
much
such
more.
precision and timing, and you got to think about the draft and the tire wear and the fuel and just the focus it takes to hit the turn the right way every single time, not to like crash into somebody. No, racing to me is just like that is a crazy sport. You know what I'm saying? That's probably the only sport today where you can die fighting, but I feel like
Sure.
they've taken a lot of it's pretty rare. And, people don't die like they used to in racing, but I mean, especially like people during that era, like Dale Earnhardt, like that era, you were really, every time you got on the track, you knew you were risking your life. And, it's saying like anyone who loves their sport enough that they're like really going to be there, like, I will die for this. I will die for this win. You know what I mean? It's like, that's crazy.
And I feel like Dale being a guy like that, I'm sure he'd love to see his grandkids, this and that. But I think if you could have told him, if I got to go,
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the track and it's going to go helping my boy win.
Yeah.
I think he'd have been all right with that. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's looking down going, you know what? If the good Lord had to take me, wasn't a bad way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I also think that takes away from, like, he wasn't just that competitor. It was like, if I can do this for family and I go where I loved, where I'd love to be in, man, why not?
Yeah. Just that reckless abandon, you know what I'm saying? That's really living right there, you know what I'm saying? When you're just doing what you want to do, you know what I'm saying? Like with no thought of it, because we're all gonna die eventually, right? You know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm gonna do what I love, and whatever happens. Wherever you know what I'm saying? Wherever everything falls is where it falls. I'm gonna do what I love. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, I do. And that leads me to kind of, further in this conversation a little bit and listen to some of your interviews and other podcasts. You talk about, man, once I get in there, we fight a fight, but like I'm amped up. I'm ready to go again. Like that to me is like that old soul of UFC. Like you go back and I'm sure you have UFC 1, UFC 2, UFC 3, where it was tournament style. Like, I would have loved for you, with your body type, your fighting style, to have lived in that era. Because, like, I think that's just kind of the way you're bred and your thought process on it. Like, I think you would have prospered in that kind of environment. Like, do you agree with me? Because it just seems like, hey, once I'm ready to go, like, give me 30 minutes. Let's go run it again.
Have you ever watched the Mark Kerr documentary, the Smash Machine documentary?
Yes, I have.
Well, I tell you, I watched that, and obviously it ended pretty sad, but like every
Sure.
part of the combat sports aspect, it was so romantic to me. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, it was like the rules were really bare minimum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you said, you would fight. You really knew who was the toughest guy in that group by the end of the night. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't
Yep.
matter who was the best quote unquote fighter. You know what I'm saying? It didn't matter who was, who had the most accolades going into it. It was like by the end of the night, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna figure out who the biggest man was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And you know what? And one guy may look like Tank Abbott, and the
yeah,
other guy may look like Hoist Gracie.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like to me, like that was what at that time, that's what made UFC during those primitive days so exciting to me. Was like, how can this little man take down this animal? You know what I mean? Like a guy that you're going, man, in the bar, I do not want to touch this dude.
yeah,
But
yeah,
Hoist has him crying like a little
yeah,
bitch.
yeah, yeah.
To me, that was that, and once again, that could never happen in mainstream anymore this day. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of glad I grew up during it.
And I don't know how if a fighter said that they haven't watched any of those old school UFC or Pride fights, I don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? I don't trust.
Nah,
Why are you fighting? You know what I'm saying? There's gotta, if you're a real fighter, there's gotta be like, I'm sure, like you said, you cooked for Justin Gaethje. I'm sure Justin Gaethje looks back at that old stuff. He's
oh,
like, that's where I belong.
dude, bro, just like you, like Justin just reminds me of those old school fighters I grew up on. Like I've been able to become friends with Dan Henderson,
Yeah,
and we've done a lot of hunting camps together, and I'm sitting there in a duck blind going, dude, when I was growing up, I'm sitting next to one of the baddest men on the planet, bro.
yeah,
And hey, pretty damn good duck shot too, old boy.
okay, go ahead.
But Dan is just one of those guys, and I guess I kind of nerd out a little bit because I like getting into like the brain of like how do you prepare, how do you like, because you guys just operate on a little different level, and to me I find it amazing, and those guys that really pave the way to the paydays and the popularity
Yeah.
that UFC's been. Like to me, at 47, I feel like I got to see the early stuff, but then I also got to see the Dans, the Randys, the Titos, the Chucks, like the guys that I feel like the Forrest,
Yeah.
the Bisbings,
Yeah.
like the guys that like laid the way of like, hey, if you're gonna come into this is how you have to operate, and this is the level it's got to be.
Yeah, the guys who are just progressively raising the bar every couple of years. You know what I'm saying? Another guy comes in and raises the bar. No, man.
So I got to tell you a little fanboy story, if you don't mind, for a second,
Let's get
Bryan.
it.
So a couple years ago, Sig Sauer does this event in Wyoming. Not Wyoming. Yes, in Wyoming, and they ask us to come up and cook.
Yeah,
And one of the guys there is Hoist Gracie.
yeah. Okay.
So hey, been around celebrity. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. And so what it was a 2-day shooting challenge. They were taking 6 Sauer rifles out there and doing like this 9-mile range by foot.
Yeah.
Hoist is one of the first guys back. And they're all staying in tents, this and that. He goes over, takes a camp shower, and comes back. And he goes, hey, Chad. I'm like, first, Hoist Gracie knows my name. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you need a sous chef? I love to cook. Bro? I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And for two, I'm sitting there for 2.5 hours going, dude, my dad as a truck driver was bringing home bootleg tapes of you tapping out wrestlers and bikers and all these dudes that were 3 times your size. And now you're here wanting to learn from me?
Yeah.
Like, how wild is that?
Yeah. No, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
And I will tell you, one of the sweetest, most graceful guys in the world. And we get done, and I hugged him, and he goes, I could end you right now, don't you? And I go,
He said that for real?
He said that for real? He did. He goes, I made a career out of ending guys
That's
like
crazy.
you.
That's crazy.
And I go, Hoist, that's why this is so special, old boy. but literally, it's like, pinch me. How cool is this? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No, oh man, no, I can't even because I feel that where like it's like now before the fights and stuff, you're at the apex of the PI. You see all these guys who are competing now. And it's like, I got to be cool if someone's competing now. You know what I'm saying? I got to act like we're peers. You know what I'm saying? Even if I
Yep.
have gone out of my way to watch them in the past, I gotta be cool. You know what I'm saying? But there's still certain people. Like if I see Shogun, I'm gonna go over and ask for. If I see Mark Coleman, I'm gonna go over and ask for a picture. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, and it was funny. I got the funniest story I have of having like a little fanboy moment.
Let's hear it.
Was it was like a year, maybe 2 years ago. This is right after I fought Trayshawn Gore, in like my first regular UFC fight, and so in Charlotte at this point, especially at like a fight event, if it's in the greater Charlotte area, North Carolina, a lot of people know who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like a local celebrity. Um, so at this particular fight event, one of my teammates was fighting Rampage's son, right? And so I get there and I run into my sister in law. She's there with my nephew, and she's like, "Hey, we just saw Rampage, and she told me this whole story about because my nephew, he's young, right? He's young, so so she was like, "Oh, this is Rampage. He fought in the UFC, and he's like, oh, like my uncle Brian, like he had us." Like, you know what I'm saying? And,
Oh, he name dropped you, bro. He
yeah,
name dropped
he
you to
name dropped me.
Rampage.
Yeah, and
That's
so
a good nephew right there, son.
well, apparently, like, he goes, "Oh, Brian, I'm a big fan of Brian." And so she's telling me, I'm like, "You said Rampage said he's a big fan of me." Like, I'm looking, I'm like, "You said that." He said that. She's like, "Yeah, he said that." And so, like, I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, now I got to go talk." You know what I'm saying? Before, if I ran into him, I definitely would have said something, but I wasn't gonna go bother him. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, he's a fan, so I'm not bothering him. He wants to meet me as much as I want to meet him, right? And so after all the fights I'm helping corner with all my teammates fight, I'm walking around and he's sitting at a cage side table with his family. A situation where you would normally leave someone alone. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? But I'm like, yeah, he wants to meet me. He said he's a big fan, so I went over and I just tapped him on the shoulder and he didn't turn around. So I tapped him on the shoulder again, and he didn't turn around. And I was like, so, I'm over here, a grown man, UFC fan. I'm like, "Excuse me, Mr. Rampage." Excuse me, Mr. Rampage. And he turned around and he just like nodded and then turned back around. And so in that moment, I was like, yeah, he has no idea who I am. Yeah, like, yeah. I was like, he
But
has no
but
idea. He was just saying that to be a cool person around my nephew, but it's
but
just,
what a kind guy. Like
yeah,
what a kind guy to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. I was like, that's nice that he still put on for my nephew, but I was like, yeah, it's one of those moments where it's like, okay, there's still levels to this. Let's say
Dude,
I'm two fights into my UFC career, maybe, I got a
and,
little over carried away with him being a fan of mine. You know what I mean?
well, but you walked up, dude, that's a broad man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dude, an animal. Aren't you glad you got out of that weight classification and got down a little bit, old boy? Like you don't want to be
Well,
fighting monsters like that.
and what is even crazier is like he fought at like I don't think he could fight. Well, I take that back because he was a big dude, but like light heavyweights
He fought
now
it.
are
Well,
just gigantic. Like
yeah.
they're all like 6'4", 6'3", cutting from 230. Like light heavyweights now are just like different. They look like defensive ends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, dude, no. Well, it was funny. I saw on your Instagram you had posted with a couple of different Vegas Raiders
Yeah,
players. A couple years ago, I was doing the Dan Patrick show for the Super Bowl in
yeah,
L.A. and Max was out there, Crosby.
yeah,
Dude, that is a large individual. Like Brian, when he shook my hand, it was like here.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I got these short arm, stubby hands, but dude, it was. I'm like, my God, I would not want to be a quarterback, and I'm pretty good friends with Justin Herbert,
Yeah.
and I was like, Herbie, what do
Yeah.
you think when Crosby comes around? He goes, dude, I'm thinking get rid of the ball
Yeah.
because I don't want him to hit me.
Oh,
He's like,
I
he
get
goes, he's so athletic and he's just so large. And I feel like that's what light heavyweight and heavyweights turned into. Like these are athletes that are just heavier and bigger than everybody else.
Just gigantic dudes. No, I'm telling you, nothing makes you feel because I'm not a small guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm 6'1",
No,
three
you're not.
quarters.
No.
Like, and especially in that situation, right? I'm coming out the cage with Ange. Like everyone, the comment, oh, Battle looks huge, but I felt huge in the cage. I'm coming out, I feel like this massive guy, and then I go over to the Raiders, and I'm having to look up at them. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm happy to be beating you guys, but it's low key kind of making me mad right
I,
now. Like I don't like, like
I think your caption was something like that. It was like football players are huge. Like
yeah, no,
dot dot dot. Like that was it.
because at the strength and conditioning spot I used to go. Now I do privates, but I used to do the pro
Yeah.
class, and so the pro
Mm-hmm.
class would just they'd either be college athletes or pro athletes. So every once in a while, actually fairly consistently there'd be some NFL guys. You know, what I'm saying no massive names or anything, but some NFL guys in there.
Yep.
And the way, like I said, I'm really just starting to get into weightlifting now, and so say I'm doing a dumbbell press, from the floor. I'm doing 70 pounds, and I'm fighting for my life to get those reps in. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm almost
Yep.
blowing a blood vessel out of my head. Like I'm fighting for my life to get the reps. And so then I finish. Then I look over at the NFL guy who has like 100-pound dumbbell, and not only does he have the 100-pound dumbbell, he's got a resistance band wrapped around the dumbbell to his other arm. He's holding his other arm up, so he's got resistance while he's putting the dumbbell up, and he's doing it like a knife going through butter. And then he gets up, and he's like, "Whew, man, I'm so tired." I was like, "Shut the fuck up." I was like, bro, I don't even want to. I just watched you do that. Don't even get up here and say that to me right now. I just fought for my
Oh
life
my gosh.
with no resistance pounds and this 70-pound dumbbell, and you were over here doing 30 pounds heavier with the resistance band like it was nothing. I was like, don't even come over here and talk about you were struggling, bro. NFL guys are really just different. They're just different human beings. You know what I mean?
No, they really are, and just the skill set you have to have for that. But dude, you guys are just as impressive. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a certain amount of skill set. Like I remember starting to watch some of your fights, and I was like, dude, he's great on his feet. You know what I mean? Great against the cage. And I was like, but how is he when he gets on the ground? Especially like not having a wrestling background, and dude, you're just as deadly down there, man. Like that to me, especially when you're going against guys that more than likely have a wrestling background, have a jiu-jitsu background, and you really didn't get into that till you started training. I was thoroughly impressed that your ground game was that solid.
Well, I'll tell you, that was really because, like I said, I got knocked out in my first amateur fight. So, like, there was a little bit of my whole amateur career, I didn't throw a whole lot of punches. You know what I'm saying? Just because it was like I still had that PTSD. You know what I'm saying? Where I wasn't sure how durable my chin was. So it's funny, like everything up until the Ultimate Fighter, I was known as this grappler, like a
Really?
grinder. Yeah, I was known as a grinder. Like I would put guys up against the cage, and I would hold them there until I got the takedown. You know what I'm saying? Like that was
Work your shot.
That's how people, in the local MMA scene, kind of knew me as. And it was funny. Me and my teammates, we laughed about it because I got on the Ultimate Fighter, and they were like, "Yeah, he's a striker. He's a striker." And we were dying when they were first saying that. We were like, I can't believe they're calling me a striker. I never thought the day would come where someone was calling me a striker. This is crazy. But I mean, that's just kind of how it's evolved now. It's like now people are looking to take me down as like that's the new avenue to victory. It's like to take me down, and it's just a funny thing to me because it's like that's not a real avenue to victory. Like that's probably the worst way you can go is trying to grapple with me.
Well, you're. I mean, you tell me. I've never done it, but I feel like you're going to expend the most energy in the least amount of time. Like you're going to get more spent down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Especially, like I'm a very annoying grappler. Like the way I grapple, I'm gonna force you to use energy the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you're
gonna constantly work.
I'm gonna be constantly doing things, even if it's not like a real threat. I'm gonna be constantly doing like little things that is making you, all right. You have to adjust. Now you have to do this. Now you gotta do this, and eventually, then don't let me get on top. You know what I'm saying? If I get on top, then it's really gonna be really annoying. You give me like a little bit of a window. You give me like a little bit of an opening. I'm jumping on that. So
And I think that's another place where your length just plays to your advantage. You know what I mean? Like that to me, like I was very impressed with it. And I'm glad you shared that with me, that like that's kind of where your amateur career was at. Because I was like, man, how is he on the ground? And I was like, damn, he's pretty fucking good on the ground. Like, this is awesome.
Well, because what's funny about that too is because when I first got into training, like I knew like striking was, that's most people, right? Like, all right, I want to be a striker. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the glorious art. You know what I'm saying? Being able to strike and knock people out. But I went to start training at the school I started training at because I knew I was like, okay, I need to learn how to strike, but I also got to learn how to grapple, right? Like you got to know both. Even if grappling's not what I want to be doing, I need to know how to grapple. And it just so happened with the schedule of the classes and my work schedule. At the time, when I first started training, I worked at a dealership and I would work 12 to 8, 12 in the afternoon to 8 at night. And sometimes we'd get off early. But it was like, because of that, I went to the morning classes. And if I did get off early enough to go in to do training, I would go in to the grappling because that was the last class I would have. So I just got a lot better at grappling. My grappling got better faster than my striking because that's just where it fell, you know what I'm saying? And
where you were training. Yeah,
that's where I spent most of my time just because that's what was available. And so, I look back and I'm very happy because it's like now it's like, okay, like you said, it's like, all right, I'm doing the striking thing now. And it's like more people are going to be tempted to like take me down and figure out. And it's like, all right, yeah, you fuck around,
fuck around and find out, old boy.
Fuck around and find out. You know what I'm saying? We can go to the ground, brother. I'm very cozy there. You know what I mean?
All right, proud sponsor of the show, better damn well be Whiskey Bent BBQ. So this is a brand that Nicole and I started a little over a decade ago. You can find our rubs and seasonings in about 500 different retail locations throughout the U.S., Academy Sports, select Ace Hardwares, and then obviously here at our store in Lakeland, Florida. If you want to go check it out, please feel free to. WhiskeyBentBBQ.com, and you can use my discount code OldBoyPodcast for 15% off. All right, so we've talked about your stand-up game. We've talked about your ground game. As you're going into this fight with Loosa, we talked about visualizing. I'm pretty sure it's not you whipping his ass and poking him in the eye accidentally.
Yeah.
What was the vision you had? But what was your game plan going in there? Because you dominated the shit out of that first round.
Yeah.
What walk me through it. What were you visualizing? And then based on the way that he approached the fight, how did you either follow that game plan or alter it?
Like I said, it was, I definitely going in that, I was like, I want to be on the front foot. And there was things, we knew he was right hand heavy. And so we did a lot of drilling, just to be disciplined, because he does a good job of timing your jab and coming over the top of your jab with the right hand, and he's a quick guy, and explosive. So did a lot of drilling, just like being defensively sound with my offense, making sure that my jab was getting all the way back to my face. You know what I'm saying? Really being prepared to slip that right hand. And like I said, the front kicks. And all the things like the second round, you were about to see some shit in the second round. You know what I'm saying? Like it got stopped right before I really started going crazy. Yeah, I would say that my teammate, shout out to my boy Jonathan Martin. He's fighting in May for a pro title. He's right on the cusp of the UFC. Really talented guy. And he just gave me such a good look. That really going into that fight, I really just like kind of turned my brain off. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm just gonna go in there and just kill this guy. I just like, I felt I was in the best shape of my life. I was so sharp. I felt so strong. I was like, we've done all this drilling. I'm gonna just go in there. And of the things I saw, I was like, I think I could knock him out with a front kick to the face, or a flying knee. Those were the things I was really just like little things coming up the middle just because of how he defended himself a lot, or countering the right hand. Like I was like, if I can get the timing on that right hand down enough, I know I can counter that and get the range right. Um, and so, and once again, that fight didn't really go. And I will attribute it to being really sharp. Um, that was another one that didn't really go. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than what it was. I thought he was going to have a lot more to offer than what he
Yep.
did. To be complete, based off just watching his last fight before he fought me, like he looked like a world beater in his last fight. So like
Well, did something go through your mind? Like, well, is he holding back? Like, is he trying to save himself for 2 or 3, or did you just feel like this isn't the same guy I saw on tape?
No. After the first minute of the fight, I was like, "Oh, well, he's done." I was like, this is gonna be a good fight." Like, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him." Like, I was like, "Oh yeah, here we go." Because in the first 30 seconds, I heard him with the jab. You know what I'm saying? He tried to come in. I hit him with the jab. That he stumbled, and then I tried to jump on him. He took the shot, and I uh, beat him in the grappling exchange. And so I knew once I beat him in the grappling exchange, because I would say the biggest thing going in the fight is I wanted to put a lot of pressure on him. You know what I'm saying? Besides all the game plan stuff, I was like, he's a guy that's gonna melt. Like if you don't let him fight at his pace and he has to fight at your pace, you can see him start fading. You can see when people really put pressure on him, he starts melting a little bit. So that was really something. Now, granted, like I said, I thought it was going to be a lot harder. I thought I was going to get hit more. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a dog fight. But I knew, like, if I kept the heat up, he would melt eventually. And so, that was really just the whole thing. The whole time was just like stay in his face, make him uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Keep firing, and be ready for when he does. And I knew he was going to get progressively more and more desperate. Like right before the eye poke, he took it's like a lazy halfway shot he did from way out of range. Then his head came up and smacked me underneath the chin, and then I'm just trying to create some space and push him away. You know what I mean? So he was already doing things like he was panicking. You know what I'm saying? Like he was doing things out of desperation. He all his confidence was gone. You know what I mean? So and then when I got him in the eye, because it wasn't real, like it wasn't like the my thumb went in there.
No.
It was like
we've seen real pokes. You know what I mean? Like
like it was like I like touched his eye with like the flat part of my thumb. You know what I mean? So I was like, I knew he was fine. But at the same time, I could tell by his body language, and I knew how the fight was going. I was like, "There's no way he's going to keep on fighting."
He's relieved.
Like, he's going to take this way out of the fight. I knew he was going to do that. So when he actually did it, I was like, "Man, fuck this guy."
Well, hey, I love that he couldn't see shit, he couldn't do shit, but as soon as you called him a pussy, somehow that eye's fixed. He's ready. But decision's already been made.
Yeah.
Now, I do have to ask you something, Bryan.
Yeah.
And you don't have to share it with me, but I really would love if you did.
Yeah.
Michael Bisping was talking to you.
Yeah.
And then he saw a camera, and he kind of held his hand up.
Yeah.
What did Bisping say?
I don't know. I mean, I would say like allegedly, I don't really remember exactly what he said, but I think if I did remember it properly, allegedly he said that I was right and that Ange was being a pussy and that the whole commentary booth agreed that he was looking for a way out. Now, I'm not saying that's what he said. I gotta, things are happening fast. Things are happening fast.
And I was kind of reading lips too, and that's exactly what I got from it too, old boy. Like, I feel like we're on the same page.
No, that's what. You see me being like, right? I was like, oh, this is crazy.
No, and that, like, and to me, that's one of those, we were talking earlier about, like, fighting as a brotherhood. You know what I mean? And like, first off, when people are saying, like, oh, y'all need to rematch, fuck that. You whipped his ass. You need to work up.
Yeah.
Like that dude had his opportunity. He bitched out. Done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should not tie up a training camp giving that guy another shot.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Once again, as a fan, not an analyst, but he doesn't deserve that. He didn't earn that. If he wanted a piece of you, he'd have done it right there that night.
No, yeah. And not only that, it's like normally you see when guys get bad eye pokes, they'll post something on their social media later. Like they'll be like, look at my eye. Or here's a doctor note where they said I got a scratch on my cornea or something. They'll post something afterwards to be like, hey,
I'm on my way to go see a specialist. You know what I mean? Like,
anything. crickets, nothing, because there was nothing wrong with his eye. Like I was like, that was like afterwards, like that's how I felt. I was like, yeah, I need a. In my head, I was like, yeah, I won that fight. Like the matchmakers came and they talked to me after they said I looked great. So in my head, I was like, but then I saw like there were some people talking about a rematch, and I was like, and afterwards they were asking me about a rematch. I was like, man, I mean, if that means I get an extra fight this year, I'm not gonna turn down an easy because I'll whoop his ass for another check. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'll take that check. I got a new kid. I'm good.
I'll take the check, I guess. But it's like to me, I'm with you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like if you say, would you rather a rematch or fight someone in the rankings? I'm like, yeah, give me someone in the rankings. Like I don't have anything to prove, and I'd rather my fights I'd rather there be a little bit of fear going into my fights. You know what I'm saying? That helps with the preparation. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily fear, but like respect. Yep. Like it's like, okay,
yes,
this guy can beat me if I don't show up at my best. You know what I mean? And I'm at the point where I feel like I can almost show up 50% and whoop up on a hunch. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and honestly, that's not a way you want to go into camp either.
Yeah,
you want to go into camp feeling like you got to fight it. Like I'm putting this work in because I need to put this work in. You know what I mean? And I feel like where you're at in your career, 29 years of age, you should not have to step back because he wasn't willing to be a man that night.
Yeah,
no, not at all. You've got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah,
wife, 2 kids, like, and you deserve that. You earned it that night.
And like I said, it's like, you know, there's only so long I have. Like right now, I feel, you know, people, they're like, don't get ahead of yourself, Bryan. You know, so I really feel like I can beat any welterweight in the world right now. You know, I feel like that, especially if I'm peaking, if I'm at the top of my game, I feel like I can beat. You know, I feel confident that I'm watching all these fights. I'm like, man, I would whoop this dude. You know what I'm saying? And there's only so long I got before that starts going down.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, though, too, Bryan. Like, everybody talks about your age. But the difference between you and most of those guys is you played football and basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You haven't wrestled your whole life. You haven't. So you're a young 29 for this game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you haven't put your body through that abuse from the time you were 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so while age is a number, dude, I look at you and the way you fight, and I feel like you're a 23, 24-year-old, to be honest.
No, those are facts. Because especially now I'm getting hit less and less in my fights. You know, I'm sure that'll change with the step up in competition. But
Sure.
To me, it's the tough part about fighting at this stage isn't the actual fight. It's getting ready for the fight. Like it's so.
Sure.
Like we talked about that Michael Jordan quote. It's like I got the confidence I have now to fight any of those guys because I know how hard I train, not only in fight camp but out of fight camp. And it's like to me, I don't understand how like someone like Conor McGregor can have all the money he has, you know, to have won 2 belts and to still talk about, because I know he can't have that same kind of drive. You know what I'm saying? Because I just know myself. If I had 2 belts and all that money, it would be hard for me to train the way I'm training right now. Just like
leave your family. You know what I mean? Like yeah. And that's where I thought it was funny. I saw it on a TikTok where somebody was asking Dana about when's Conor going to fight again.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, this guy took his private jet from Ireland to New York.
Yeah.
To fuck up Khabib's shit. Like
yeah.
Do you think he gives a fuck about when he's going to fight again and get another payday? Like, you know, I can't. Connor's going to fight again when Conor wants to fight again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but that is like, it is so interesting to hear that from another fighter's mouth. But you know, you're at that cusp now where it's like you want to break that top 10. Like that hunger has to be at the highest it's ever been because you know you've got it in you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just need the shot.
Yeah. No, 100%. And then I know what it takes to maintain the ability to get to the top. So it's just definitely like, you know, I'm ready to do things now. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still getting better, still developing, but you know, like I said, you know, there's always a finite clock on how long you can stay at the top of your game, and so I'm looking to make as many waves as I can while I can. You know, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. So you know,
yes, sir, I love it.
Some heads, you know what I mean?
I do totally. Two things, and I'm gonna let you go because I realize I've went over my time. But man, I have enjoyed this conversation.
Very good one. It's a very good one for sure.
So do you, since, maybe after Ultimate Fighter, and you're going to have this shot in UFC, you've got these fights. Do you always try to stay in shape to where, you get a chance 7-10 days notice, you're ready to go?
Yeah, like my goal is to stay at welterweight. 7-10 days is kind of hard. Middleweight that was easy. Middleweight I could take a fight on a couple days notice. I knew I could make weight.
Okay.
Welterweight I need like 3 weeks. And so that's
3 weeks.
2 weeks. But after my fight with Renat, because of, like I said, the way the preparation went, and
Yep.
having to really cut calories super hard. I accrued some injuries I didn't talk about before that fight, just a short amount of time that really affected my performance. And so, 3 weeks is kind of like that's a little bit of a sweet spot. I feel like I can, with the how I train and maintain things outside of camp. I feel like 3 weeks I can really just ramp things up and get into peak. You know what I'm saying? Get to that peak
Sure.
performance place. But no, I mean, I would say out of camp, I definitely stay in shape. You know what I'm saying? Like I do more than I used to. But like out of camp, I'm working, but it's really more just getting my foundational level like higher, so that it raises my
Sure.
peak up higher. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like when I start my next camp, once I get the call, I want my starting place to be where my peak was at going into my last fight, so that my
Yes,
peak
sir.
is that much higher going into whoever I fight next. And so I think it's such a big mistake. I see it even here on the regional level. Someone do a fight and they'll take a bunch of time off. You see guys at the highest level, they'll do a fight, take a couple months off. And once again, it's different. If you're a prize fighter, you're getting paid a ton of money per fight. You're only going to fight once or twice a year. Yeah, I understand that, but
Sure.
for me, and like I said, I got started late, so it's like I'm still catching up to this day. Especially on the
Yep.
skill end of things. So,
Sure.
um, it's that the off season, the outside of camp stuff is just as important as the inside of camp stuff for me. Like I don't have the luxury of being able to rest on, being an NCAA All American and knowing how to wrestle in my sleep. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yep.
I still got to get my
Stay
reps
sharp.
in. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like. So yeah, no, it's a blessing and a curse. Like, I think that definitely gives me a little bit of an edge because I'm training all the time. But then it's also annoying sometimes because even at the gym, like we got this guy. He's getting ready to fight amateur. You know what I'm saying? He hasn't even made his name. He just started training, but he was a 3-time D2 All American wrestler. You know what I mean? And it was funny. The way I figured that out was we were striking. You know what I'm saying? We were striking, and he clinched up
Okay.
with me and put me against the wall. And I was like, "What a sucker!" You know what I'm saying? He doesn't know. I know he's bigger than me, but I'm about to take him to school because this guy, he's like 220, 230, like solid. And
Oh yeah.
I was like, I'm about to
Yeah.
take him to school, and I went to move him, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." He didn't move, and you know what I'm saying? I went to move him again. I was like, "Huh." He didn't go anywhere.
Shit.
And then next thing I know, I'm moving. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, who is this guy? I went to my coach. I was like, did that guy wrestle or something? He was like, my coach just started laughing. He was like, yeah, he's a 3-time D2 All American. I was like, oh, that's cool. You're telling me that now. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's even like
Hey, Coach, if you'd have told me that, I probably wasn't going to let him get me against the
yeah,
cage,
I
bud.
would have danced a little bit more. I would have circled or something.
I'm going to use
what I
that
mean?
77 inches to my advantage.
Yeah. Ask me how many times he's got me against the wall since then.
Never.
Never. But even
Oh,
when
man, I love it. And
even when we're grappling, you know what I'm saying? Like this is a guy, this is like he's a guy, he doesn't really know any jiu-jitsu or anything. I stopped wrestling with him. There was like a good month where I was like trying to take him down. I was like, I'm better off just trying to sweep this motherfucker. It's like this isn't I'm getting hurt trying to take this guy down. I'm risking my health trying to take this dude down. But No, it's just so it's yeah. There's still things I'm still learning and getting
But
better at, and that should be scary for everyone else. You know what I mean?
but that's what you got to do. You got to drill against those things that you don't know
Yeah.
because you never know when that's going to come up in a fight. And yeah, is he 40, 50 pounds heavier than you? Sure. But dude, you got to do it because if you can plan against that, you can damn sure handle any guy your weight that puts on the same attack.
100%, 100%. Like if I can sweep this big tank of a guy, there ain't nobody who's holding me. If I can get up against this motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? Who all he knows is to hold and
Yes,
squeeze.
sir.
You know what I'm saying? There's no one's holding and squeezing me. You know what I'm saying? For
Yep.
15 minutes. So it's just yeah, just constantly getting better, constantly finding things to work at. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think all these guys, it's like fighting me now is your best option because if you wait, the longer you wait to fight me, and I'm really just gonna keep on getting. I'm gonna get stronger, faster, more skilled as time goes on. So it's just, I'm excited about the future right now. I'm excited to see how far I can take things. You know what I mean?
Bro, I'm excited about your future. And I'm just a fan, man. I think you've got a bright one.
Thanks,
And
man.
and in speaking of that, what, have we heard anything from the agent? Like, because I know you said, dude, this guy didn't take shit out of me. I'm ready to take a fight right now. So any word? I mean, do we see you before the back half of the year? I hope so.
I'm hoping so too. I haven't heard anything yet. I'm trying not to. I hit up my agent probably about half a week ago asking if he had heard anything, and he said no. So I'll wait till after UFC. After UFC 300, I'll start to get annoying again and really start to be like, hey, what's
Yep.
up? What's up? Because that's another thing. It's like in the UFC, I don't think people realize how like much power the matchmakers have. You know what I'm saying? The matchmakers are kind of like if Dana White is like the Godfather, like the matchmakers are the guys right
Yep.
underneath of him who are running
Yep.
the day-to-day
The
operations.
Dons.
Yeah,
The Dons.
you know what I'm saying? Like, and so my
Yep.
whole UFC career, like the matchmakers didn't talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like they talked to my agent. They didn't talk to me. And so after my last fight, both the Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, they both came back to the doctor's office and they're like, oh, you looked amazing. You were winning that fight. And Sean Shelby's like, you feel good? You can fight again? And I was like, all these fights were, like 14-second finish, 42-second finish,
Yep.
rear naked chokes. And after the fight, I'm like, I can fight again. I can fight again. I can fight again. The fact that he's sitting there and he's like, hey, you feel good? You can fight again soon? I was like, hell yeah. I was like, this means a lot coming from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if my agent would have asked me that, I wouldn't have felt the same way I feel with you asking me that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it hasn't materialized into anything as of yet. But I'm hoping if I can get 2 more fights this year, I'd be very happy. You know what I'm saying? I know generally speaking, it'll probably be 1 more fight, but if I can get 2 more fights, I want to see if I can fight Joaquin. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got a lot of hype right now. He's in the rankings, so I'm gonna see if I can fight him and steal his ranking real quick. You know what I'm saying? But
No.
just we'll see.
I love it. And by the way, that after fight press conference, I don't think hurt you at all on getting booked sooner than later.
Yeah.
Sometimes they drop you in a situation and you made the most out of a shitty situation with the way you handled yourself in that press conference. Like it was, yeah, you called it out. You repeated what you had said in the ring, but at the same time too, gained a lot of respect for you. I think a lot of people did, and a lot of people became big Bryan Battle fans because of just, hey, this sucked. I was whipping his ass, but dude, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, and that would, to me, was just a solid press conference. And dude, I hope you get 2 more times in the octagon this year. I guarantee you I'll be watching both times, Bryan.
That'd be amazing, man. The post fight press that was because I had a very wholesome, not profanity laced post fight speech I was planning on saying that was going to be very inspirational and all this stuff, and then everything happens the way it happened. Now, I don't know why they left us. They just left us in the middle of the octagon by ourselves. I don't know why they did that because I was already walking around the cage being like,
no,
it can't be a no contest. I was saying that before they even stopped everything. You know what I mean? And
yep.
you said you just watched the Petrosky fight. Like you saw, like in that fight, I was calling him a bitch all up and down the whole time we were in the break.
Yep.
I was like, "You bitch, you fucking bitch." They were, and it was funny because after the fight was over, the lady came up to me. She was like, "Man, whoever's on the bleep button, they're gonna have a busy night." And I was like, "How much of that?" I was like, "How much of that did they get?" She just looked at me. She said, "The whole thing." I said, "The whole thing." I was like, "They got everything," and she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh," but I didn't know it did. It worked out in my favor. Like I didn't realize how the fans would like take to it and really like.
Yep.
It probably did more for me as far as gaining fans and getting another finish would have. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, it was definitely it was shout out to I've been watching a lot of WWE lately, so shout out to all them boys. I've been watching how they've been cutting promos and how they're working the crowd and stuff like that. That was definitely something where I think I said I was whooping the shit out of them or something like that, and then the crowd pops.
Yes.
The crowd popped, and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh wait, you guys like that?" I was like,
Oh
I was
yeah.
like a 2-year-old when they tell a funny joke. I was like, "How many
Yeah.
more curse words can I fit into this?" Like
All right, man. Well, hey, I just got two last quick things for you.
yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up because you've already been too generous with your time. First one, give me a person I should have on this podcast after your experience.
Oh, that's a good question. My Jason House would be a good person. I know he's got my agent. He'd be a good person. You should have Ricky Tercios on here.
Okay.
Ricky Tercio. That's always a fun conversation. If you can get a hold of that motherfucker, that guy, that's a crazy cowboy right there.
Hey, I'm down with both of those. And second, do you think when you do get that fight, we can get you back on here to help promote it?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, this was one of my favorite interview podcast conversations I've been a part of. This has been a pleasure. We really just been talking on here. You know what I'm saying?
Bryan, I told you when we started it, I was trying to have a conversation, not an interview, man, and you've been exactly that. For two dudes that have never spoke before, man, I feel like I know you better than I ever could. I really appreciate you being open and honest with us and just having a great conversation. And on the way out, man, feel free to promote your gym, website, and anything you want the folks to go check out.
Yeah, no, it's what they say in Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
I love it.
Well, no, yeah. Shout out to my gym, Carolina Combat Sports and Fitness. Come in here if you got any kids in the Greater Charlotte area. Your boys teaching kids classes every day. You know what I mean? Shout out to my agency, sports, Iridium Sports Agency. Great people. Jacob, Jason, all those guys. They really do a lot for us. I gotta shout out my wife. I forgot to shout her out one time. I didn't miss. I was shouting everyone. I was shouting out
Hey,
my kids.
let's make up for it right now, old boy. Put that wife over. Let's go.
Caitlin, I love you. Yeah. She's been doing a lot of the amount of sleep she's missed watching kids during fight camp. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to her. She's
Mm-hmm.
all my training partners, John, Josh, my boy Shamik, another guy who's he's about to fight in June. He's fighting for Fury FC. He's another guy who's right on the cusp with the UFC, flyweight. You know what I'm saying? Look out for Shamik Harvey. My coach Tom, Coach James out of Dime Boxing. A whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Whole lot of people. It takes an army to make a a weapon of mass destruction like me.
And hey, I saw you got a little bit of merch. You still got that merch out there? Where can people find that at?
Well, okay, so and there's a lot of confusion, right? There's
Okay.
I got the you know what I'm saying shirt, and then I got the other shirt where I'm dog walking Ange.
Yep.
That's not actually that was a gift. Someone gave that to me as a gift. Like we don't got that
Okay.
for sale, but it's funny because people want to buy that. I don't know if I can actually put that for sale. Like I don't know about the legality, the copyrights, and everything like that. But that's definitely it's funny. One of the guys because I do a 6 to 8 a.m. class too. I do
Whew.
kickboxing 6 and grappling 7 to 8. And so one of the guys
Mhm.
did that, like he every fight like when I knocked out Gabe. They got a shirt of me knocking out Gabe. When I knocked out Takashi, they have a shirt of me knocking out. They would have had a shirt of me choking out AJ, but there wasn't any good shots of me choking out AJ. So
Yeah.
we make sure everyone that shirt got people want that shirt too, but it got some people hot and bothered too. Some people like, oh, and I can see how out of context, like if you didn't know who I was in the
Right.
situation, you'd be like, why
Yep.
does this dude have a black dude on a chain? You know what I'm saying? Like out of context, people are looking at it like, what is happening on this shirt right now? In context, love it though. You know what I mean?
Awesome, man. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to hold on for just a sec after we wrap this up.
Yes, sir.
But, ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Battle, what a great guy, man. Thank you so much for the time, Bryan. Can't wait to have you back on. And, dude, you got a new best friend, old boy.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Thank you for having me. This has been a good one, and I can't wait to come back on. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get some good stories for the next time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And hey, wherever it is, if I got an open weekend, not only am I going to help promote that fight, but I'm going to be there and watch it in person,
Yeah,
brother. I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you go to battle.
let's go.
Thank you so much for listening to the Old Boy Podcast. Please subscribe, like, set your notifications, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. Also, feel free to go back, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Get some of the past episodes, check those out, and always feel free to check out our socials, Old Boy Podcast. Thank you so much.